All right, everybody, welcome to Tesla Today. So two big things happened this weekend. First, we all pretty aware by this point that on Friday, Elon Musk did a live stream of him testing out full self-driving along with Ashok Alaswamy, his director of AI, around Palo Alto. And secondly, today on Monday, we actually have the launch. Tesla launched their new supercomputer, which has 10,000 H100 NVIDIA clusters, and they did that just today. So we've got Jeff Lutz with us. Jeff is a C-level supply chain executive and chief quality officer at multiple Fortune 100 companies. He now runs his own consulting firm, and he partners with these guys to help them with supply chain and other matters. Welcome, Jeff. Appreciate you joining me.
Great to be with you, Herbert.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun, right? Because obviously this was the big live stream that Elon did this weekend. Just to play a little bit of that so you can see it, just so you can see what's happened. This is Elon driving the car.
All right, I think. And then did the turn. Again, I'm being somewhat repetitive about this, but we have never programmed in the concept of a roundabout. We just showed a whole bunch of videos of roundabouts. So a lot.
A big fleet helps.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely need a lot of training data, a lot of video training data in order to make this work. So you need really billions of dollars of training hardware, and you need to know how to run the neural net training hardware. So it's not like easy, but the mind-blowing thing is that there's no heuristics. There's no like lines of code. Like there's a guy on a scooter. It doesn't know what a scooter is. It doesn't know what paddles are. It's literally just been given a lot of video. So.
Wow. Okay. So just to set the stage, Elon is driving a Model S with hardware 3 in it. He just randomly put pins in the map of Palo Alto. They decided to take the car, turned on full self-driving version 12. As you explained there, though, the version 12 is very different than all the other versions that's ever been made before, because this is almost all of it was AI coded, not coded by the humans and the traditional software coding. You can hear from Elon that they just fed it lots of videos, and it's teaching itself, kind of knowing what to do and how to do it. So the couple things that we wanted to cover today, which is big kind of a different approach than what others have covered yet, is how is the mainstream media, how are competitors reacting to this? And I want to dive deeper into whether or not this is something that competitors can easily copy. There's a huge narrative out there by a whole group of people thinking, yep, this is something that others can do. Let's dive deeper into that. So Jeff, let's start with your tweet that you did first here. So you said, if Tesla cuts prices by $100 per car on Friday, that would have been headline news the same evening on CNBC, Business, and Yahoo Finance. And yet a production Tesla driving itself purely via AI neural nets narrated by the richest man on earth and nothing from the mainstream media. So you kind of showcased this as part of it, which is you're showing all the news that came out the next day, and few, if any, were covering this at all. Why is that, Jeff? Why are people not covering this at all?
Yeah, and we're all going to remember where we were when we watched that video. Herbert, we were together actually narrating it. And there's a couple other things in that video that really quickly stood out to me. The fact that it never saw a roundabout and it knew how to navigate a roundabout. It was approaching traffic, and there were 4 cars in one lane and 1 car in another lane, and it moved itself over into the lane that only had 1 car, which is what you would naturally do as a human. And then the other fact that this runs on 100 watts, a light bulb runs on 100 watts. So Tesla has really captured the cost structure and capability, data, compute, and cost structure that really no one is even close to. And I sent that tweet out, and Elon responded regarding just the media's reaction. I went to Bloomberg's website. I went to Yahoo Finance. I even went to them this morning. There was nothing. And then I went and did a Google search on Tesla News, and there was one article we may hit later that it referred to, Elon trying to find Mark Zuckerberg, and which ironically would have been the second intervention of the evening. But anyway, it's almost comical. And but I understand how markets and Gary and I are having an exchange this morning on X. I can understand that markets, aren't going to react, potentially to a single drive and understand the meaning behind it. But you would think, having the richest man on earth narrating a first ever car being driven, exclusively by AI and nothing else. By the way, that's a production car that was probably built last year. There was no special computers in that. There's nothing. It was just this alpha software release, not ready for prime time release, and they did it live. They did it live. This wasn't taped where they can cut something out. He literally turned his phone on, jumped on X live, and broadcasted that. And that to me should have garnered just the media piece of that should have garnered a lot of attention in itself. But then when you actually strip down and understand the meaning behind of like what just happened, it's historic. I think we're all going to remember where we were, and this is going to lead to not only this is the first time we've seen a lot of text based AI back and forth. We've seen chess games being played, but this is the first time we've seen a couple of tons of metal kind of moving through the streets with no hard coded, software. This is, purely. And what does that mean? Well, that means that you and your Tesla, you're going to, with these 5 million Teslas on the road gathering data now, at some point in the near future, you're going to be able to plop your car down anywhere on Earth, and you're going to have superhuman driving capability immediately. And it's hard to put a price tag. Obviously, you can't put the price tag then on, the reduction in collisions and so forth. But yeah, I think it's hard to get a read on the media other than it wasn't spoon fed. If there was something, really bad that happened, I think that would have been covered. So it's almost like they didn't understand how to package it up and contextualize it. It couldn't fit in a headline in a way that was meaningful to them, and they kind of just like look past it. I think Elon described it well. They don't get it.
Yeah. So this is absolutely. So it was historic. It was amazing that it did it. I thought it was 100%, even though it had one intervention, which is the car did started to move at the four-way stop sign when the green light turned on. But the fact that this is version 12, which is 100, I don't know, it's 100%. It's a vast majority, I think he said, is AI coded. They just fed it, and then they learned how to do everything on its own. That's historic. This is a very, very different way to approach things. And then this is Elon replying to you saying they don't get it. He replied back to your tweet, your post, is that they don't get it. So, and that we'll cover some more. But I think the other big topic is, could these other companies catch up, and could they just do what Elon and Tesla has been able to demonstrate? Omar sent this post out saying Tesla could hand the entire Autopilot source code to Ford today and would take them years to replicate the data set and integrate it into their vehicles. So even if somebody copied the source code, it would be years before they would catch up. And then Elon replied to him saying, designing in the cameras, liquid-cooled Tesla computer, always go liquid-cooled, and high-security internet gateway will probably take major car companies about 3 years. This is Elon, his estimate. It'll take them 3 years. Might as well start now. We want to be as helpful as we were with making our patents available for free, as well as our advancers of charging connectors. They'll probably want to use our online vehicle management system on their server side too. All right. So this is Elon saying that it's going to take 3 years. And then he's also saying, hey, we're going to partner with you. But he's also very open. He's not trying to, capture the market. He does think that in the future there'll be multiple competitors. There's so many angles to take this reply back. What's your thoughts, Jeff?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think in a number of years, if competitors decide to go down this path in a number of years. You can't say with, in infinity, no one's going to be able to figure this out. I think that wouldn't be, that wouldn't be realistic. The key is if Tesla's able to turn the switch on, within a year, I'm just making that up as an example, and have the abilities of superhuman driving, both on for personal one-on-one driving, or the ability to, to manage fleets, robot, whatever. You're going to be faced with a choice of, well, first off, there's no if you're a competitor to Tesla, there's no, even if you copy their system architecture and say, all right, they got a bunch of cars on the road. These cars are learning and they're gathering information. They're taking this video and they're uploading it. They're analyzing it. They're looking for, really, good examples of driving. They're able to parse through this data and they're able to, it, there's no guarantees at any step of the way that you're going to be successful. And you look at, and then you have Tesla's onboard computer. If this inference is really running at 100 watts, which I have no reason to not believe them, they said it over and over. I mean, that power consumption is so small that, the cost structure, remember, the cost structure is going to come in form of how much energy you need to feed this system for it to work. No internet connection and low power. And then the Tesla onboard compute and all the cameras and all the wiring to get to those cameras, the liquid cooling. I mean, I'm estimating it's somewhere in the $1,200 range per car. And we'll talk a bit about that a little bit later on. But even other Chinese automakers are 3 to 4 times that today. So they have a cost advantage, they have a time advantage, they have the data advantage. They're building the compute advantage now. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And how would somebody, like, how do you, where do you go and cut and paste the 5 million cars on the road today gathering the data? If you're a Ford, you've only got, maybe, 100,000, 200,000 vehicles on the road everywhere in the world. How are you going to get the kind of data that Tesla gets? Same um, with GM, and I'm talking about, EVs. They could equip all their cars, right, with it, but again, I think from a power consumption perspective, that wouldn't work in every vehicle. So it starts with the data lead. It starts with, then you have the system architecture. Again, what happens with this data? That's what Elon talks about in his tweet, and how they manage, the vehicle fleet, the autonomous fleet, and then how is this data parsed? Like all of these things, all of these things would have to be magically copied. You just can't. And again, they design their own computer. It's their own chip. Tesla is the NVIDIA for self-driving hardware in their car. It's no different than NVIDIA. NVIDIA designs the hardware, sends it out to a fab to have it fabbed. Tesla designed their hardware, and NVIDIA has their own software to manage the AI solution. Tesla has their own software as well. So when you understand all of these aspects, you understand that there's, many years in the making, and Tesla's not sitting still. That's the other thing. They're ramping up. They went from A100s to H100s. They're working. They have their own D1 chip that they're working on. They're not sitting still, and they're going to bring the cost of compute down. They're going to bring the capacity up, and so they're going to have a capacity lead very soon. Probably be the top 5 in compute. They said next year. They're going to have the cost lead at the car. They're going to have the whole system architecture down, and they're going to have the lead on data, compute. They have the resources, and they have the cost structure. Those 4 things are key, and I can't see anybody, copying that in a very short time frame, if not at all. So they'll be forced to take a license or be at a competitive disadvantage for a number of years.
Hey there, thank you for joining me. If you can, please consider supporting this channel so I can keep it going. It's a lot of work arranging all these amazing interviews. One of the easiest ways is just to click that join button and become a member of the channel. Thank you very much, and let's get brighter. Okay, so there's many components to all this, and the argument of whether or not others can copy this and how long it will take them to do it, right? So the first one is everything you just said, right? Do you believe that it takes a supercomputer with, billion miles of driving video data to be able to treat this be able to do this well so that it becomes 10 times safer than a human? Or is it something that you can just copy the software? Okay. But even if you just copied the software, from folks that I've been interviewing, people like Tasha Keeney, Brian Wang, what they've explained to me, and Brian has done a deep dive comparison of all the competitors, um, including which I'm sorry, Cruise
Yeah.
and all the lidar based companies. It's actually not the cost of lidar or the hardware, by the way. What I'm
Mhm.
hearing from them is that even if it costs them $5,000 more per car, if you truly have robotaxi, then that's going to be like washed. That that fixed asset cost at the beginning will be washed out over the months of subscription revenues and payments that they make. What matters more is their business model. They can't make money today. They're losing $2 billion per year, and they're going to keep losing that until 2030 when they have enough cars on the road to be able to then flip that economics so that they can start making money. Whereas Tesla is completely different business model where they've got the customers buying the cars. The customers' cars are out there able to be turned into robo taxi at any moment. They've got 4 million and they're going to get to 10 million in a couple of years. So it's one of those things where, just like Uber took 10, 15 years before they got profitable just last year, these car companies won't be able to turn a profit. So when Tesla comes in, you can't undercut them in price. You can't undercut them in the ability to just drive from any location to any location. And Tesla's going to be, so much safer because they're so far ahead. Why would you ever choose another option? There's going to be competitors. It's just not going to be what people think. It's going to be in various pocket areas. Just because these competitors are already in 5 or 6 cities, they're very limited. They're losing money. They have to have internet access. They have to have somebody always watching another human on the other side of it. So let's continue on here. We've got Ray for Tesla saying this. He tweeted this out, posted it up, saying, pretty sure people at Xiaopeng, Li, NIO, or even Huawei watch closely this live stream by Elon using the revamped end-to-end neural network approach. They're learning what Tesla's doing and incorporate that into their own ADAS software development. And we've seen that these, especially the Chinese automakers, they're following and copying Tesla. They're not fighting them or saying that they're doing the wrong approach. Doesn't surprise me if they decide to rewrite their software following Tesla's footsteps. Chinese companies are extremely good and efficient in implementing what has been proven to work by others. Elon replied to him, and he said, some of them are indeed doing so. We're very well aware. So they know for sure that they're doing it. Part of the value of having our own hardware is that our software will only run on that specific hardware, warts and all. As with Apple, you can't just copy the code or unpack the binaries. You need the hardware too. So there's another point by Elon saying that, okay, go ahead and copy the software approach, but you need the hardware and you can't just copy Tesla's software because it's very much optimized for their hardware. What quite a bit about this. You've worked with mobile phones. You've worked with competitors to Apple, very specifically, like very closely with these competitors to Apple as you were creating the Android. What are your thoughts, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, he's exactly right. Um, and that's Tesla made a decision a number of years ago, probably 7 or 8 years ago, to form their own silicon team, to not only design their own silicon, but also the software solutions that run on that silicon. And that decision, um, along with what Tesla's decisions have done on batteries and gigafactories, that's are some of the most important decisions I think they've made in the history of their company. And I think this dojo piece is going to be another piece of that as well. Tesla, if you think about Nvidia and you think about how they're touted in terms of, in the AI world, they design their own silicon and their software, their CUDA software is needed to run, manipulate, and develop AI solutions on their silicon. And so you can't just copy an Nvidia chip and not have their custom software to run it. So then this is what Elon is saying about Tesla, or is he saying about Apple as well? You can't just copy the hardware. By the way, which they've done a very good job, very efficient job in hardware. You can't just copy it and then put your own software on there. That it's not going to work. Um, so part of building the moat is both on the client side, so on the on this, call it the subscriber or the car itself, building that cost efficient computer that's not only cost efficient, but it's energy efficient. That's a moat. Okay. And then it's not, you don't have to actually build the chip yourself. There are fabs there that are experts in the industry at building these chips, TSMC, Samsung, Global Foundries, you name it. There are experts at building these and assembling these. Let them do that. The real expertise is in the design of the silicon, the logic that runs on it, the software that runs on it. That's the key. And Tesla is the only one right now that actually does that, and they actually build cars. They actually own the whole system in cars. So one of the beauties with an iPhone is, they operate the entire system, both from the iCloud side all the way down to the phone side, and then now all the way down to the silicon to grab that mode in terms of how the power efficiency and the performance of the phone, and then of course the cost structure. When you design your own silicon, you're not paying a license fee to someone else, like today that what happens in the world with Qualcomm and others. For every single chip you buy and every single car you put on the network, you're not in that model. But Tesla could be in that model. Nvidia's in that model right now. They run that model. Tesla can be in that model as well, because who actually has the full end-to-end system up and running? No one does in auto. It's Tesla. So that's why, number one, there's an advantage, because it's not just the computer in the car, it's the software, it's the software tools to be able to develop that software, and then it's the network side as well. And Tesla has this thing end to end. Right now, they're using NVIDIA GPU clusters to ramp up their compute. They have to. They don't have their chip ready, but they'll be able to over time augment those H100s with their D1 chip and have Dojo running.
Good. Okay, let's continue on with your comments about the Chinese auto manufacturers. So you're reminding folks that not only did Tesla spend billions on compute, also consider what I estimate to $1,200 per car, 5 million cars. That's $6 billion on data collection. It's going to be tough to catch up. This is the lowest hardware autonomy cost per vehicle, I believe, in the world, because this is just 1,200. Don't believe me? Ask Li Auto. So Li Xiang, who's the CEO of Li Auto, actually responded or was quoted as saying that he thinks Tesla's FSD is a true mass data-driven AI computing platform. It's in the right direction for full self-driving. He commends Tesla's advantages in hardware setup, cost, scalability, AI OS, mass data collection, model training, algorithm. Sounds like Lee is taking a page out of Tesla's playbook on the way to vehicle autonomy. So they certainly believe that that's the case.
Yeah, from my understanding, again, I know one of the founders of Li Auto, and they've definitely taken a Tesla. Again, I'm not telling you like anything. I'm speculating, but just knowing how they operate, they've taken a Tesla, they've taken it apart. They know the cost of their autonomy system down to the component level, and they're looking at what they do, and what they do today. They're shoving $4,500 in per vehicle. Now, I understand that some believe that, okay, well, it's not going to matter once you eventually get the robo taxi; those costs are going to go in the noise. And they will, but it's more of that time to break even. And can you even get to that point of collecting enough data if you're flushing that much money down the toilet and you don't know when you're going to break even, or if your solution is even going to work? So Tesla basically gave themselves the opportunity to put the data collection piece of this and the actual high performing onboard compute, no network connection needed. They put themselves in a position to, when this switch flips overnight, it's going to be a big deal. And everything up until this point has basically been 3 to 5% of the cost to build the vehicle itself. They've which is still a big number, but they've made it manageable so where they can build cars. And even if people don't buy FSD, number one, they still have all the safety capability that comes with it. And um, and Tesla has been able to scale this without meaningfully impacting their unit economics. Others can't do that. The cost of these vehicles that you see with all the lidars and all the different sensors, 30, 40, 50 sensors all over the car. These are more prototypes that are out there to grab data. They have dozens and hundreds of these in various cities grabbing data. And those cars were manufactured, then remanufactured, which means they were built. They have their own unit economics to build their car, by the way, which costs more than a Tesla today. And then they were brought into a facility, and then they were remanufactured. They were taken apart. The sensors were glued in. The cars were the computers were installed. Additional probably energy was installed in these cars, and then they were remanufactured. They were put back together, and then these were sent out and distributed back out to these cities. So if you look at that end-to-end cost structure to do that versus Tesla just building cars through the flow in their factory and building them and shipping them, and these cars are just in cities all over the world collecting data, it's really ingenious, and it really speaks to um, the race, again, going back to that core four things: the data, the compute, the resources, and the cost structure. Tesla has this massive lead now in the data piece because of what they did.
So one of the breaking news that happened today as well on Monday is Tesla announced that they have launched a new supercomputer based on NVIDIA H100 clusters. This is Owen. He works at Tesla AI, and he said that there's a new 10,000 H100 NVIDIA cluster that's coming online today. And in addition to that supercomputer that's added to the original supercomputer NVIDIA that they have, they're also scaling up their own dojo, actively training neural nets. And he reminded everybody that FSD version 12 is end-to-end training and it's compute bottleneck. So if they can raise and quickly get these supercomputers up, you're going to be able to get closer and closer, to much quicker to having this, being able to solve robotaxi to the point that it's at least 10 times safer than a human. Clive Chan also works at Tesla's AI, and he said that FSD's compute bottleneck, $2 billion is going to be spent in compute this year, and actually more than $2 billion next year. Tesla is investing a significant amount of money on this. And then he also reminded that Dojo actively training nets and scaling fast. And of course, the goal is to maximize usable performance per watt. Full stack from neural nets, transistors need top-notch engineers. So they've been all asking out there if anybody's a top-notch engineer to join their team. Sawyer reported that today this 10,000 unit NVIDIA H100 GPU cluster to help it train FSD. So we're going to explain what this is. He did a nice tweet thread. I'm going to go through that. The difference between H100 GPUs and the current A100 NVIDIA graphics processing unit that Tesla's been using the last couple of years. So here's the difference. This is the NVIDIA A100. This is what Tesla's been using for the last 3 years. It was launched 3 years ago. It introduced 20 times performance improvement, and it's designed for artificial intelligence workloads. That's what it was designed for. This is the NVIDIA H100 that just launched now. It's $40,000 per chip. And remember, Tesla bought 30,000 of these. So that's crazy, $40,000 per chip. And they bought 30,000 of these. Or sorry, is it 10,000 of these? Up to 30 times faster than the A100, 9 times faster for AI training. And this specific chip is specifically optimized for video training. This is FSD video. So this is going to be so much better being used this. So that it is going to be 5 times faster compared to the A100. 5 times faster. And so they bought as much as they could. But because Tesla's been saying that because they're trying to buy as much as they can, but because they can't get everything that they can from NVIDIA, they had to build their own dojo, which is also very much optimized. It's hyper optimized. So Tesla's not just a car company; they're building their own supercomputer, and then this supercomputer will also train Tesla's fleet of vehicles and process data from them. And then Elon did say, if NVIDIA could deliver us enough, we might not need Dojo. And then they brought it on board at the same time. So they're just doubling everything they have. And so this is the goal of Dojo itself. It's a reminder that forget NVIDIA. If they didn't do that, Dojo is going to be, even by itself, they plan to invest in it. And it's going to be the fastest supercomputer in the world. And look at this, by October 2024. So that's like next year, this is where we're going to be at. So this version 12, which is, again, almost all AI coded, end-to-end training. It's compute bottleneck. So they're doing these things and they launch it today. We're on path. They're spending billions of dollars. I don't know anyone else who can do this.
Yeah. So let's touch on the economics of this. First off, if you're an NVIDIA investor, congratulations. They make about 75% gross margin. So if Tesla's buying these, they're basically cards. They're chip on wafer on substrate. There's multiple. There's memory. There's obviously their GPUs and there's tons of stuff on these things. So they're mini computers, high powered computers. Obviously, they're $40,000, and Nvidia's making 75% gross margin. That means there's $10,000 or less of real cost in these things. And just think of when Tesla starts building these themselves and serving, basically shipping to themselves, right? Internally transferring to themselves. They're not going to have to spend the $40,000. It's going to be, $10,000 or less. It's going and of course they're going to build better, more capable silicon, in a following year where they're going to get more performance out of it. So from a cost structure perspective, this compute is very expensive. This is why everybody just can't enter into this game and say, well, if Tesla can do it, we can. There's many billions of dollars of cost associated with doing this. And so, when Tesla sees these bottlenecks, right, in the chain between where they are today and where they want to be in the future, they figure out, can I continue to buy, or do I have to make this myself to break the bottleneck? And how many different examples are there of them doing this? With most recently the refinery for lithium, and now you have them. Basically they're designing their own version of the H100. They're going to break this chain both on the capacity and cost structure side, and it'll make everything more competitive, which is great. The other thing, they'll build more purpose-built chips for the work that they're doing versus some of the more broader solutions that the H100 serves. So the cost structure here is going to be key. I love the way Sawyer covers it because it's this is a real news story. Like this is a really big deal that this cluster is coming up inside of Tesla, and what it means to their ability to train, V12 and to ramp up this. This is safer cars faster by the work that they're doing. And again, Tesla's working on a way to figure out and get past this NVIDIA bottleneck, so they're not the bottleneck in the. By the way, NVIDIA is going to be bottlenecked reportedly to the end of next year, and many people think that people are double ordering, and if I'm an NVIDIA, in my experience with buying silicon in the past, is if you have something that's on global allocation, what you do is you set a little bit of a higher bar to purchase it. Meaning you can't just put an order in saying, "Yep, I'm going to take those." When you get them to me in Q1, I'll take them whenever you can get them to me. They'll put take or pay contracts, which basically mean if you order 10,000 of these and you only take 5,000 of these, I'm going to make you pay for 10,000 of these, even if you don't take all 10,000. So and I'm not saying that those take or pay contracts are there. I'm saying it's likely they're there in some form and some magnitude to protect NVIDIA from double ordering. So the point of me saying that is I believe they're booked through the end of next year. This is public information. So Tesla's got to get their own solution online to be able to break this bottleneck thing and get into the top 5 in compute.
Perfect, Jeff. Thank you for that. So to remind folks what exactly we saw there, this is a reminder. So version 12 is almost all AI coded, right? This is entirely AI and cameras, just like our brain, which is neural nets and eyes. This is a nice roundup from Tesla Economics. And he said, there's no line of code. This is all the comments that Elon made during that live stream. He said, this is no line of code that says slow down for speed bumps. It's doing it entirely on video training. It just learned on its own to slow down for speed bumps. There's no line of code that says give clearance to bicycles. It's just doing what they saw humans can do. It can read signs without ever being taught to read. It's figuring this out on its own. There's no line of code that says stop at a stop sign or wait for another car or who came first or wait X number of seconds. Nothing. This is all nets, baby, nothing but net. This is history in the making. car in the world, no car in the world doing this today. The other thing I wanted to bring up was that if you take a look at what, like going back to this concept of can competitors copy this, let's hear directly from Ashok Elaswamy himself. This is Ashok Elaswamy. He is the director of Autopilot. He's the person who's in charge of creating this FSD. He was in the car with Elon when they did their test drive of the live stream. This is his post immediately after. He said, this end-to-end neural network approach will result in the safest, the most competent, the most efficient, and overall the best self-driving system ever produced. It's going to be very hard to beat with anything else. So he himself is very confident. And it took a tremendous amount of high-quality data from the fleet, a very large amount of compute, and a world-class engineering team to get to this point. Elon Musk replied back saying, true, it was super hard to do this, even when FSD is 2 times as safe as the average human driver, fully unsupervised in all scenarios. Then we will want to make it 3 times, 4 times, 10 times safer than an average human. And so again, you can copy the code, but maybe you're going to be several years back and yours is going to be only 2 times as safe. And you won't be able to be fully unsupervised in all scenarios like Tesla would be, because they have the fleet and they have the video of all the cities everywhere around the world. But by that point, FSD is going to be 10 times safer than a human. And then Elon reminded folks that about 1 million people die every year in automotive accidents, 10 million are seriously injured. So the other big thing was here, which is Alexander Mertz, Tesla Boomer Mama, pointed out that if you look at the word, if you put ADAS in the search word in Tesla's job offering page, there's 10 screenshots of job openings around the world. Here's one from Munich. And if you look closely here, you're going to see things like in Taipei. What country is that? North Sydney, New South Wales. What do we have? Barcelona, Rome, Amsterdam, Berlin.
Yeah.
I mean, it's everywhere around the world, even British Columbia, Calgary, Vancouver, Quebec, of course, Colorado, California. So they're hiring folks everywhere, not only in the US, but every country, many countries around the world. Yeah.
Yeah, it just speaks to the scale of what they're doing and the fact that you don't open these positions unless you believe that A, you want to hire these people, and B, you want to fully load them and utilize them. The worst thing you can do as a company is to hire labor and then not utilize it. So this tells me that they're ready to expand.
Yeah. Okay. And then the last topic we can cover here is this concept of the hardware 4 and hardware 3. So it's only going to impact the folks who are buying the brand new cars now that have hardware 4. Even Cybertruck might have this, and folks like you who bought the most recent cars that has hardware 4. So the unfortunate concept here is Elon did say that hardware 4 software will lag hardware 3 by at least another 6 months, as our focus needs to be on getting FSD on hardware 3 working super well and provided internationally. So what he had explained was that because this is end-to-end, which is vision in and an action out, right? Gas pedals, brakes, and steering wheel. Vision in, it's different photons coming from the hardware 4, which has different higher resolution cameras than the hardware 3. So the whole fleet has been taught on hardware 3 right now, so it knows the trained on that, so it's delayed by that. He did say that Dirty Tesla asked, I wonder if Elon's saying 6 months is really 6 months or really means 2 years. He can't imagine Tesla's going to let hardware 4 be missing beta, FSD beta, for too long. Elon said it's a real 6 months, maybe less. So it's a concern, Jeff. But I mean, as you and I have been discussing, as an investor, hey, you're close to solving FSD. I would roll this out internationally, get that out. And yes, you're going to suffer significantly for hardware 4 folks that they won't get it. They'll get some version, I believe, but they need to kind of focus their staff, their team, their limited team into getting hardware 3 because they're so close. They can feel it, I'm sure. But then as a customer, and you're one of them, you're a little upset, right?
Well, I mean, as an investor, I get it. And I have a lot more invested in, I would say, in the company than I do in owning the car. And I do have a hardware 3 car and a hardware 4 car. Um, so these are somewhat like first world problems, but if you just step out and remove me from the situation, again, as an investor, I agree with what Tesla is doing. That's the right approach. There's 4.5 million cars on hardware 3, and you probably have, somewhere probably by the end of the year, we'll probably have a million on hardware 4. So you have this set of 4.5 million or 4.5 million, you have a set of a million. You're going to solve for the 4.5 million first and go globally. The quicker this goes out more globally, the more money that comes in for Tesla. I just think on the customer side of it, they're just going to have to figure out how to make it right with
Yeah.
customers who have a depreciating, a $15,000 asset if they picked up their car in April, and they have this $15,000 purchase that they did, and that they're unable to use it. I just think they'll have to figure out how to make it, right
Mhm.
for consumers. And Tesla's, good at. They have a lot of different options too to kind of make it cost neutral to themselves, and also make it right for consumers. I other think the other thing with Tesla is how many people saw that Elon video? They're going to want to go run out and buy a Model S or X, and if they do, or a Y, it's going to have hardware 4, and it's not going to be able to run. What's on that? If Tesla releases a V12 at the end of the year, let's say for example, it's not going to be able to run it. There's going to be some confusion, on that side as well. So all in all, I agree with the priorities of the company, especially as an investor. I just think they need to figure out how to make it right. And then, yeah, what is the timeline? What does lag mean? Does lag mean no release, or lag mean you'll get a release? It's just going to be in performance. It's going to be a few months behind. Well, I think that makes sense. There'll be some point where they converge and they cross over. That makes logical sense when you think of it. But again, we're pretty in tune to how the developments of the company. And then when you get outside the Twitterverse, I think they're just going to figure out how to deal with a million customers.
Thank you, Jeff. That was a wonderful session today. Fantastic. As a Tesla investor, I can't be more pumped at this point. Friday was historic, as we felt, because it was an AI coded full self driving. And, like we've seen many videos like this that can already have zero intervention or one intervention. But I think it shows that, we're really at the cusp now that they've repeated many times. All of the engineers are saying this is now compute constrained. When I say FSD solved, that's what I mean. It's like they've already figured out the solution to it. Now they just need more compute for it to be 2 times safer, 5 times safer, 10 times safer than a human. We are headed there. And then we reported today that they've increased their superclusters, supercomputers. They're just throwing a tremendous amount of money at this. And then we showed that how competitors could compete or not compete. They can copy the software. They may not be able to copy the business model. They may not be able to copy the hardware. There's a lot of considerations both on the car side as well as server side. But even if they do catch up, they will be so far behind. But even if they do catch up, they will be likely licensing it a lot of pieces from Tesla. Tesla will still make tremendous money and so forth. So as a Tesla investor, I'm even more excited. Thank you, Jeff. That was
Me as
fun.
well. Thanks, Herbert. That was great.